One of the most lasting stories in pop culture involves a man raised by apes, eventually becoming king of the jungle and doing his best to save his forest and animal friends from destruction, alongside his lovely wife from the city. This is... Hey, wait a minute, I already made a character profile of Tarzan a few years ago. Wait, do you hear that? It sounds like the start of an earworm theme song. I'm talking about George of the Jungle today, aren't I? In 1967, Rocky and Bullwinkle creator Jay Ward decided to set his sights on a parody of Edgar Rice Burroughs' famous Ape Man with George of the Jungle. Taking the general concept and making George more stupid, the humor that categorized Ward's work is evident through this short-lived series. You have the fast-talking narrator, two recurring villains similar to Boris and Natasha, and a penchant for puns. George of the Jungle took out familiarity with the Tarzan story and managed to flip it on its head by famously having this jungle man constantly swing into trees. The gag of George being a stupid jungle hero could have gotten old quickly, and admittedly it was probably for the best the show only ran 17 episodes. The George of the Jungle segments also only ran 6 minutes, allowing us to get in, have a few laughs, and then move on to the next segment. Although, how many people even remember Tom Slick and Super Chicken? Yeah, Peabody and Sherman and Fractured Fairy Tales, they were not. Most of the humor came out of George unwittingly saving the day through his own stupidity, as well as the fact that everyone around him was smarter, including his wife Ursula, his elephant Shep, and an ape named Abe. Where the show found a decent amount of creativity was with the various animals George would come across or try to save from the hunters Tiger and Weevil. Ward also used the premise and opportunity to comment on society as a whole, with episodes centered around consumerism, exploitation, and politics. There is even a villain named Jerry Mander, because, again, it would not be a Jay Ward cartoon without puns. Jay Ward was even willing to spend a little extra on the animation budget, resulting in a slightly higher quality looking cartoon. George of the Jungle occasionally popped up on syndication over the years, resulting in the incredibly catchy theme song getting into everyone's heads again. Meanwhile, someone at Disney finally remembered the cartoon, resulting in them buying the film rights and producing a live-action movie released in 1997. I know a lot of people have a genuine fondness for this movie, and even Siskel and Ebert gave it 2 thumbs up. But watching it again recently, I was really struck by how boring it is. The movie takes the one-joke premise of the series and does not expand on it in a compelling manner. There are many uninteresting scenes of George and Ursula hanging about, along with the eventual plot of George going with her to San Francisco, where we get the standard mother-in-law plot. Even the narrator doesn't have anything funny to say, although the movie attempts a few meta-jokes that don't work. You have actors like Brendan Fraser and Thomas Hayden Church trying their best, but they're just given the flimsiest of material to work with. This is a movie with John Cleese voicing an ape, and he doesn't say anything funny. I do think the ape costumes made by Jim Henson's Creature Shop are well done, but George of the Jungle is otherwise one of the dullest comedies I've sat through, with none of the snappiness of the cartoon. Watching it made me appreciate the Rocky and Bullwinkle movie that much more. Somehow, Disney waited 6 years before releasing a sequel, this time direct-to-video. And I'm going to be honest here, I enjoyed George of the Jungle 2 more than the first one. Now, I don't think it's a particularly good movie, as some jokes do still fall flat, and the slight plot is not much to write home about. However, I did find the comedy worked a little better in this one, as the sequel embraced far more of the absurdity of the cartoon. Even Keith Scott's narrator did it for me more, and at times he even influences the story in a few bizarre turns. This is a movie that begins with a joke about how Disney was too cheap to pay Brendan Fraser to reprise his role. And this movie came out over a decade before Deadpool did that same bit. Thomas Hayden Church, one of the few returning actors, seems to chew the scenery a bit more, and there are a few other funny gags that would feel right at home in the cartoon. Admittedly, these special effects are a tad flimsy due to the lower budget given to the sequel, and despite George's son seemingly playing a major role in the first act, he disappears for a good chunk of the movie. Otherwise, I was able to tolerate George of the Jungle 2 more than its predecessor, although I recognize that's a minority opinion. Apparently, George of the Jungle has continued to remain a lucrative property, is a new animated series premiered in 2007, produced by Canadian animation network Teletoon. This used a flash animation style typical of a lot of modern Canadian animated shows, and it's a noble effort to revive the show, albeit with more reliance towards lowbrow humor like fart and butt jokes. Because the episodes also double the length of the original Jay Ward cartoons, there's more of an attempt at a story, so the pacing is different. I had a bit of a hard time getting into the new George of the Jungle cartoon, as the humor was not entirely my cup of tea. Curiously, it was brought back for another season in 2016. I don't know what that long hiatus was about, but I guess enough people watched the new show to warrant it. For me, the original Jay Ward series remains the best incarnation of George of the Jungle. The jokes were snappier, the length of the episodes were just long enough before running out of steam, and the characters were at their most endearing. However, it's telling that the concept has been revived enough times to show George of the Jungle will always remain an enduring part of many viewers' memories. Well, the theme song certainly will. See you next time.